There are words that are more than mere sound. They are living seeds, carrying within them the law of growth and manifestation. When spoken with faith, with certainty, and with the clear vision of one who knows their divine inheritance, these words become a golden key, a key that opens what appeared locked, hidden, or withheld. The universe is a storehouse of unlimited supply. It does not withhold, it does not ration, it does not deny. It is only the shadow of doubt, the mist of fear, and the chains of false belief that create the illusion of lack. Yet illusions dissolve in the light of truth, and truth is always simple. The spoken word, aligned with divine law, is the power that turns the invisible into the visible. Every man and woman has within themselves the authority to command doors to open. Not through force, not through striving, not through anxious effort, but through alignment with the law of abundance. Words, repeated with conviction, create vibration. Vibration sets law into motion. Law cannot fail, it obeys the clear command. Just as a seed planted in fertile soil cannot help but sprout when the sun shines and the rains fall. When you declare words of power, you are not begging. You are not hoping. You are not grasping. You are standing in your divine right, speaking as one who already possesses the treasure, and the treasure hastens to appear. To repeat is to engrave. To affirm is to carve the path through the unseen into the seen. To declare 3 times is to seal the word with strength, wisdom, and understanding, the trinity of creation. Money, to the awakened mind, is not merely paper or coin. It is energy freely flowing, the evidence of circulation, the rhythm of giving and receiving. It seeks the open channel, the receptive heart, the fearless soul. Doors are not barriers to such a one. They are thresholds, waiting for the command to swing wide. When you say the words, you are not asking the door to open. You are knowing it open. You are announcing to the universe, the way is prepared. The supply is ready, nothing is withheld. And because the word spoken in faith is law, the doors cannot resist, they respond. They yield, they open. This is the hidden simplicity that so many overlook while striving in toil and strain. It is not the striving that brings the treasure. It is the spoken word of faith. 3 times said, the vibration is set, the law is quickened, and the door stands open. The spoken word as a golden key has been taught through ages, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the one who is ready to understand its power. Words are not empty shells. They are living currents of energy, charged with the essence of belief, charged with the fire of intention. And when spoken with certainty, they unlock realms that remain sealed to the doubting mind. The spoken word is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between thought and matter, between the desire and its manifestation. When one truly grasps this truth, they no longer speak carelessly, for every utterance is a seed, every declaration is a command. Every sentence is a decree moving through unseen law to create its likeness in form. To understand the spoken word as a golden key is to realize that nothing is random and nothing is idle. The tongue shapes destiny. A word may heal, a word may build, a word may tear down, a word may shut or open doors. When a man says, I cannot, the door swings closed. When he says, it is mine, the door begins to part. The law does not judge. The law does not question. It simply obeys the vibration impressed upon it through sound, through rhythm, through faith. That is why careless chatter, words of lack, words of fear, create chains that bind, while words of power, words of light, words of certainty, shatter chains and throw open every barrier. The key is golden because it does not tarnish. No matter how long a door has seemed sealed, the spoken word, uttered with conviction, turns the lock and opens the way. It is not the effort of the hand that opens the treasury of heaven, but the decree of the mouth aligned with truth. One may toil endlessly, one may chase after doors, one may push and pull, but until the word is spoken in faith, the door remains heavy and unyielding. Yet let a man declare 3 times with knowing, all doors are open to me for money, and the unseen law is set in motion. Circumstances rearrange themselves, opportunities rise up where none appeared, hidden channels of supply reveal themselves, and the door that once looked sealed swings wide as though it had never been closed. The ancients knew that words carry vibration. To chant, to affirm, to declare, is to set in motion waves that ripple outward, touching matter, touching minds, touching the fabric of what men call chance or fortune. There is no chance. There is only the reflection of what has been spoken, believed, and released into the law. The golden key is never in the outer world. The golden key rests upon the lips, and upon the lips rests the choice. Shall one speak defeat, or shall one speak dominion? Shall one say, I lack, or shall one say, I receive? Each utterance is a key turned in one direction or the other. The spoken word is not mere repetition of sound, it is repetition clothed in faith. A parrot may echo phrases but unlocks nothing. A fearful man may repeat words but receives no harvest. It is the consciousness behind the word that gives it power. When the spoken word is breathed forth with certainty, when the inner vision matches the outer declaration, the key is turned and the door yields. Faith is the hand that grips the key, and sound is the key itself. One without the other is useless. But together, they create movement. And movement creates manifestation. Consider the story of those who have long carried heavy burdens, speaking words of struggle, words of never enough. Their lives become a mirror of their declarations. Lack follows them as a shadow, not because supply has abandoned them, but because their own word has chained the door. Yet when such a one begins to turn their speech, when they declare daily, when they affirm not what they see but what they know must be, the shadow dissolves. They begin to speak as a child of abundance, and slowly but surely the outer world bends to reflect the new command. Their word becomes law, and the law is exact. The golden key of the spoken word operates beyond the conscious mind. It impresses itself upon the subconscious, upon the ethers, upon the very vibration of life. When spoken 3 times with intention, it imprints itself upon the inner and outer worlds, sealing the decree with certainty. The number 3 carries balance: mind, body, spirit, past, present, future, thought, word, deed. To speak 3 times is to anchor the command across all levels of being. Thus the phrase becomes more than sound, it becomes law clothed in sound, carried forth into form. One may imagine doors of iron, heavy with locks, chained with years of resistance. Yet even such doors are powerless before the spoken word aligned with truth. For truth is greater than appearances, greater than resistance, greater than delay. Truth knows no locked door. Truth moves with effortless grace, and when the word is spoken as truth, the barriers dissolve as mist before the morning sun. The golden key does not struggle, it does not wrestle, it turns with ease. For the lock was made for the key, and the door was made to open. The power of the spoken word as a golden key is not confined to wealth alone, though money often reveals the lesson most clearly. For money is circulation, energy, flow, and flow responds instantly to declaration. But the same law applies to every door in life. Doors of health, doors of love, doors of opportunity. All are subject to the same authority. All yield to the same command. Yet for those who desire supply, who long for the opening of financial channels, the golden key of spoken word is the swiftest and surest path. To hold the golden key is to know that no man or woman is barred from their good. Appearances may lie, circumstances may seem closed, but the spoken word aligned with faith is greater than appearances and greater than circumstances. It is the key that fits every lock, the word that answers every barrier, the command that reshapes every condition. Speak and it is done. Declare, and it is so. Repeat with certainty, and the door stands open. Illusions of lack dissolve in truth, for lack has no foundation in reality. It is a shadow cast by fear, a mirage formed by belief in separation, a veil draped over the eyes of those who have forgotten their inheritance. The universe itself is abundance in expression, overflowing with beauty, teeming with supply, unending in its circulation. To believe in lack is to believe in a false picture, an image painted by the mind but unsupported by the eternal law of plenty. When truth is spoken, when truth is acknowledged, the illusion dissolves as darkness vanishes at the rising of the sun. For darkness was never a thing in itself, but only the absence of light. The illusion of lack is maintained by words and thoughts that repeat its false story. Men say, "There is not enough." And so they build walls of insufficiency around themselves. They speak of hard times, they affirm struggle, they declare limitation, and these words form the very prison in which they dwell. Yet just as words built the shadow, words can banish it. To speak truth is to pierce the veil, to call forth what is real, to affirm abundance until it takes shape in visible form. Truth is that all supply already exists, waiting in the invisible for the recognition that draws it forth. One must see that lack is not a condition but a belief. It is not a fact but an illusion. To believe in lack is to stare at the shadow and call it substance, but shadows dissolve when light enters. Truth is the light, and it declares that each soul is heir to the infinite storehouse. Every man and woman has within them the divine right to receive, to circulate, to enjoy the riches of life without fear, without guilt, without hindrance. The idea that some must struggle while others prosper is a distortion of the law, for the law is impartial. It responds to faith, to command, to expectation, not to doubt or despair. When one begins to live in truth, when one declares, "There is no lack in divine mind, therefore there is no lack in my life," the false picture begins to crumble. The outer world shifts to reflect the inner knowing, for the outer is always the mirror of the inner. Appearances may still whisper of emptiness, yet the one who knows truth does not bow to appearances. They stand firm, declaring that abundance is present, that supply is flowing, that doors are open. In that steadfastness the illusion dissolves, revealing the reality of plenty that was always present but unseen. The illusion of lack often clings, because the senses seem to confirm it. The bank balance may look small, the purse may feel light, the opportunities may appear scarce. Yet truth is not bound by the senses. Truth sees beyond the temporary image, beyond the fleeting shadow, and declares what is eternal. When the mind is trained to see truth, the senses soon follow, for the outer conditions rearrange themselves to match the higher knowing. This is why the spoken word is so vital. It trains the mind to hold truth until the world can do no other than conform. Consider the man who continually speaks of his debts, his insufficiency, his inability to meet his needs. Every word strengthens the illusion, building walls thicker and higher. Yet let that same man begin to speak differently, to declare that every bill is paid, that supply is abundant, that circulation flows freely to him and through him, and the illusion begins to weaken. The walls show cracks, the shadows grow thin, and in time the appearance of debt dissolves as opportunities, ideas, and channels of money flow toward him. The difference is not in the world, but in his recognition of truth. The truth that dissolves lack is simple yet profound. There is only supply. Everywhere one looks, life is giving. The earth yields fruit, the rivers flow, the sun shines, the air fills the lungs without cost, without effort, without fear of shortage. Nature itself is a continual reminder that abundance is the natural state. It is man's false belief in limitation, separation, and unworthiness that builds the illusion of lack. Yet once the mind aligns with nature, aligns with divine law, aligns with truth, the illusion has no power. It cannot withstand the steady gaze of one who knows that supply is infinite. Words of truth spoken daily carve new channels in consciousness. To declare that money flows freely, that opportunities abound, that wealth circulates, is to lay hold of what is already present. Each affirmation is like striking a match in a darkened room. The shadows cannot resist, they must dissolve. And the more one declares truth, the brighter the light grows, until the illusion of lack cannot be found at all. Then one sees clearly that there was never true shortage, only a dream of shortage, and the dream is ended. The illusion is strong only to the one who believes in it. Once belief is withdrawn, once faith is placed in truth, the illusion loses its form. It crumbles like a house of cards, revealing the wealth that was always available. To those still bound by it, lack seems real. But to the awakened soul it is nothing, less than nothing, an appearance without substance. They walk through the world declaring abundance, and the world reflects abundance back to them. They see doors where others see walls, rivers where others see deserts, treasures where others see emptiness. This is the transformation wrought by truth. The spoken word is the instrument of this transformation. By saying what is true instead of what appears, the individual trains the mind to see with spiritual sight rather than natural sight. They refuse to give voice to fear, they refuse to give voice to limitation, and in refusing they starve the illusion. In its place grows the image of supply, of flow, of freedom. Words spoken in truth are seeds of plenty, and in their season they yield harvests so abundant that the old belief in lack seems laughable, a dream that no longer has hold. Thus illusions of lack dissolve in truth, not because something new is created, but because the false veil is lifted. The treasure was always there. The door was always open, the supply was always flowing. Truth reveals what was hidden, and the spoken word draws it forth into sight. Each declaration of truth is a command for the shadow to vanish and for the reality of abundance to shine through. The one who knows this no longer fears appearances, for they have learned that appearances are powerless before truth. They live in the certainty that lack is an illusion, and they speak words that affirm the fullness of life until the fullness is seen and felt in every corner of their experience. Repetition engraves and manifests, for what is repeated sinks into the very fabric of the mind, leaving impressions that the outer world cannot help but reflect. The human mind is a garden, and words are seeds. A single word may fall and lie unnoticed, but a word repeated again and again presses itself deep into the soil of thought until roots form, and branches reach outward into form. Repetition is not empty echoing when it is charged with conviction. It is the steady hammer striking the same point until the stone breaks. It is the continual drop of water that carves the rock. It is the pattern etched so firmly that nothing can erase it. The mind often resists change because old patterns have been engraved by years of repeated thoughts and words. One who has long said, "I never have enough," has written that phrase upon the tablet of their subconscious, and the world dutifully acts it out. To erase that engraving, to write a new truth, requires repetition of a higher order. When one begins to say, "All my needs are met, money flows to me freely, doors are open," the words may seem strange, even untrue at first, because the old engraving is still visible. Yet every repetition weakens the old line and deepens the new. Each declaration spoken with persistence begins to overwrite the false picture, until the subconscious accepts the new command as law. Repetition engraves because the subconscious does not argue. It receives whatever is pressed upon it, whether good or ill, and acts it out with exactness. The conscious mind may doubt, but repetition softens doubt. The conscious mind may resist, but repetition wears down resistance. The conscious mind may forget, but repetition remembers. This is why daily affirmations spoken with feeling and certainty hold such power. They create grooves of thought so strong that they become automatic, and once automatic, they manifest as outer conditions without effort. The act of saying a phrase 3 times carries significance. For the first time spoken it touches the mind, the second time it sinks into the feeling, and the third time it seals itself into the subconscious. Each layer of repetition engraves more deeply. It is not the abundance of many scattered words that matters, but the focused power of a few words repeated with certainty. A short declaration, spoken again and again with faith, is more potent than endless chatter. It is the quality of the engraving, not the quantity of sound, that manifests. Manifestation follows the engraving because the subconscious directs the unseen forces that shape events, circumstances, and opportunities. When one continually repeats, "Doors are open for me, supply is mine, money flows freely," the subconscious begins to expect it, to believe it, to demand it. And the outer world, which is nothing but the mirror of inner expectation, reorganizes itself to meet that demand. Repetition engraves the belief, and belief calls forth the manifestation. There is no force of chance here, no accident. It is the exact outworking of the law that what is impressed must be expressed. Repetition also builds momentum. A single word may strike the air and fade, but repeated words gather force like waves upon the shore, each one stronger than the last, until the tide itself shifts. The subconscious, once passive, becomes stirred, alive with the vibration of the phrase, and that vibration sets law into motion. What begins as words whispered becomes events unfolding, people appearing, opportunities opening, money flowing. The engraving becomes a living pattern that reality cannot resist. One must not despise repetition, for what seems simple is in truth the key to mastery. Just as a musician practices scales, just as a craftsman repeats strokes, so the one who seeks manifestation repeats words of power until they are second nature. Repetition engraves not only upon the subconscious, but upon the very cells of the body, aligning thought, feeling, and action with the spoken command. When the whole being vibrates with the repeated phrase, manifestation is inevitable. The mind, like wax, receives impressions most deeply when they are pressed again and again. Old fears and doubts may rise to argue, but repetition silences them. Old habits may try to resist, but repetition weakens them. Old patterns may linger, but repetition overrides them. The key is persistence. For every repetition is a stroke against the old engraving and a carving of the new. The one who continues, who repeats daily with faith, who refuses to grow weary will see the outer change, for law cannot fail. There is power in rhythm as well. Repetition is not mechanical when it is infused with life. To speak a phrase with rhythm, with breath, with focus, engraves more deeply than to mutter without attention. The repetition becomes a chant, a declaration, a steady drumbeat calling forth the unseen. Each beat drives the truth deeper, each repetition reinforces the engraving, until the mind is saturated with the pattern, and the world must conform. Repetition engraves also because it keeps the mind fixed. The scattered mind, chasing many thoughts, cannot manifest strongly. But the repeated phrase gathers the mind into one line of force, focusing it like a magnifying glass focuses sunlight. The scattered rays may warm, but the focused ray ignites. So it is with repetition. By repeating the same phrase, the mind is focused, the energy is concentrated, and manifestation is quickened. Even when outer evidence seems to deny the repeated words, persistence is the proof of faith. To declare abundance while seeing lack is the test of strength. To repeat the truth while appearances contradict is the engraving of mastery. For the repetition is not about describing what is seen, but about commanding what must be seen. Each declaration is a hammer stroke on the invisible, shaping the form that will soon appear. The outer will always yield to the inner, that is most firmly engraved, and repetition is the tool that makes the engraving unshakable. Repetition engraves and manifests because it aligns thought with divine law. Divine law is unchanging, always abundant, always flowing, always responsive to command. It is the human mind that wanders, doubts, and forgets. Repetition brings the mind back, again and again, engraving the law into consciousness until it becomes natural, effortless, and unquestioned. Once engraved, it no longer needs effort. The manifestation flows as naturally as breathing, as automatically as the seasons. Thus the one who understands the power of repetition does not tire of it, does not dismiss it, does not say, "I have said it once. It is enough." They know that engraving is not made with a single stroke, but with steady carving. That manifestation does not come from a scattered whisper, but from the thunder of repeated command. They continue until the word becomes flesh, until the invisible is visible, until the engraved pattern is fully manifested in form. Money as energy and circulation is one of the most misunderstood truths in the world, for so many see it as fixed, as scarce, as heavy and immovable, when in reality it is fluid, light, and ever-flowing. Money is not an object, it is a current, and like every current, it moves toward openness and away from resistance. To treat money as static is to dam the river, to believe in stagnation where there should be movement. To see money as circulation is to understand that it flows like blood through the body of life, nourishing wherever it is allowed to pass, bringing vitality wherever it is welcomed, and returning again and again in greater rhythm and power. Money is a symbol, a visible expression of invisible supply, and it cannot be separated from the energy that underlies it. It is an instrument of exchange, a tool that allows giving and receiving to take place, and it only has meaning within circulation. A coin hidden in the earth has no life, no power, no value until it moves, until it is exchanged, until it flows into circulation. So too the wealth that sits locked in fear does not bless, does not grow, does not multiply. Only when it moves does it reveal its true nature as energy. The idea of money as circulation removes the belief in shortage. For just as the ocean does not lose when one wave breaks upon the shore, so life does not lose when money flows outward. The wave returns, the tide continues, the sea remains inexhaustible. To give is not to deplete, but to participate in the rhythm of flow. To receive is not to hoard, but to allow the rhythm to complete its circuit. The miser who clutches tightly breaks the rhythm and lives in the illusion of lack, while the one who circulates freely finds that money returns with greater ease, greater speed, greater abundance, for they have aligned with the eternal law of flow. Energy must move. Stagnant water becomes fall, stagnant air suffocates, stagnant thought produces decay. In the same way, stagnant money produces fear, anxiety, and loss. When circulation is embraced, money becomes a joyous servant, moving swiftly in and out, always returning, always multiplying, always alive. The one who understands this does not cling in fear, does not cry when it goes, does not doubt its return. They know that to release is to invite, to circulate is to increase, to trust the flow is to guarantee abundance. Money as energy carries vibration. It responds to the thoughts and words of the one who handles it. To those who bless it, it grows. To those who curse it, it shrinks. To those who circulate it joyfully, it multiplies. To those who clutch it resentfully, it withers. The vibration of gratitude, of faith, of generosity infuses money with life and sets it moving in fruitful ways. The vibration of fear, of greed, of despair drags it into unfruitful channels and often causes it to vanish. It is never the outer object that matters, but the inner energy with which it is handled. When one sees money as circulation, they are freed from the chains of worry. They no longer fear the going out, for they know it ensures a coming in. They no longer doubt the inflow, for they know it must return by law. They give with gladness, they receive with ease. They let money pass through their hands as sunlight passes through a window, brightening all it touches, but never lost. Their supply is constant because their trust is constant, and the law cannot fail them. The fear of spending, the clinging to every coin, is the very act that blocks circulation. The thought of, I must save because there will not be enough, engraves lack, and lack appears. The thought of, I give freely because I am supplied freely, engraves abundance, and abundance appears. Energy follows thought, and money as energy cannot move in opposition to the thoughts and words of the one directing it. Thus, to speak of shortage, to fear loss, to dread the outflow, is to instruct the law to withhold. To speak of plenty, to rejoice in giving, to expect return, is to instruct the law to increase. Circulation is not waste. To give with wisdom, to spend with purpose, to allow money to move through channels of good, is to honor the energy. Waste occurs when money is used to satisfy fear, vanity, or emptiness. Circulation occurs when money is used to bless, to uplift, to create, to expand. In circulation there is joy, and joy magnetizes return. In waste there is heaviness, and heaviness drives money away. One who understands money as energy does not squander, but neither do they hoard. They allow flow in both directions, and they prosper thereby. Consider the body. If the blood were to stop in its course, the body would die. Consider the lungs. If breath were held and not released, suffocation would result. Money is the same, it must flow to keep life alive. To allow circulation is to participate in the eternal breathing of the universe, the giving and receiving that never ends. The one who inhales must exhale, the one who exhales must inhale, and neither act can exist alone. To give and not receive is imbalance. To receive and not give is imbalance, but to allow both is harmony. In harmony lies abundance. The flow of money is not limited to visible channels. It comes through unexpected ways, through unseen avenues, through doors that appear only when circulation has been trusted. The one who clings to a single channel, a single source, a single door, may block their good. But the one who trusts circulation knows that money is energy, and energy can take any form, move through any path, reach through any channel. They do not fear the closing of one door, for they know that circulation ensures another opening. They do not doubt the arrival of supply, for they know that energy cannot be destroyed, only redirected, and money as energy is always finding new ways to flow. When money is seen as circulation, gratitude arises naturally. Every dollar received is recognized as proof of flow. Every dollar spent is seen as planting seed for greater harvest. There is no dread, no resentment, no fear. The very act of giving or receiving becomes sacred, an acknowledgement of energy moving through life. Gratitude multiplies the flow, for it adds power to the vibration. To be thankful for money as it moves is to bless its journey, and blessed money always returns. To live with this understanding is to be free. No longer does one struggle, hoard, or worry. No longer does one chase or grasp. They stand in the river of circulation, confident that as long as they allow flow, they are supplied. They become magnets for wealth, not because they strain but because they align. Money seeks them out because they are open, and circulation delights in openness. They give without fear, they receive without guilt, they circulate without hesitation, and life circulates abundance to them without end. Doors respond to faith, not force. For faith is the invisible key that commands what effort cannot compel. The world is filled with those who push and strain, who hammer upon closed doors with desperation, who demand entrance through fear or cunning, and still they find themselves weary, frustrated, and shut out. Yet there are others who stand quietly, who speak with certainty, who move with confidence, and before them the very doors of opportunity swing wide, as though eager to obey. It is not force that moves them but faith. The calm assurance that what is theirs cannot be withheld, that every threshold will yield at the right time, that no lock can resist the command of divine law spoken with belief. Faith does not clamor. It does not struggle. It does not argue with appearances. It sees the door closed but knows it open, sees the way barred but knows it clear, sees the obstacle yet calls it gone. This knowing is the power that the universe responds to, for law answers vibration, not effort. The vibration of faith is a clear, steady signal that aligns with abundance and opportunity, while the vibration of force is tangled with fear, with doubt, with resistance. Doors respond to the signal of faith as a magnet responds to iron, as a seed responds to water, as the tide responds to the moon. When one attempts to force a door open, they declare by their action that the door is closed. Every push affirms resistance. Every desperate act engraves the belief in difficulty. And the more they press, the more the door resists, for the law reflects belief without error. But when one speaks with faith, declaring, "This door is mine and it is open," the vibration changes. The door begins to yield not because of human strength, but because divine law rearranges the unseen until the way is clear. The distinction is subtle yet profound. Force looks outward and demands, faith looks inward and knows. Force exhausts itself, faith renews itself. Force depends on visible means, faith trusts in visible supply. Force is rooted in fear of loss, faith is rooted in certainty of gain. And so, while force knocks endlessly upon doors that seem immovable, faith simply speaks and watches them open of their own accord. The spoken word, when backed by faith, carries authority. To repeat a declaration 3 times is not an attempt to batter the door, but to engrave the knowing more deeply into consciousness. Each repetition strengthens the conviction, each repetition clears away doubt, each repetition sends forth the vibration that the door cannot resist. It is not the volume of the word, but the certainty behind it that carries power. A whisper of faith is stronger than a shout of fear. Doors respond to faith because faith aligns with divine timing. Force seeks to rush, to pry open what is not ready, to seize prematurely. Faith knows that every door has its perfect moment to open, and that moment cannot be missed by the one who trusts. Just as fruit ripens in its season, So do opportunities mature and present themselves at the right hour. Faith waits without worry, speaks without doubt, and walks without hesitation when the door swings wide. The one who trusts does not waste energy forcing, for they know the law cannot forget them, and the supply cannot pass them by. The imagery of the door reveals a deeper truth. A door is never a wall but a threshold. Its very existence implies entry, its very nature implies opening. To see a door is already to know that passage is possible. Faith sees this clearly, while fear misinterprets the door as denial. Force rages against the door as though it were a wall, but faith recognizes it as an invitation waiting to be accepted. Faith declares, "This way is prepared for me," and the law honors that declaration. Consider the countless examples of those who, through sheer effort, chased opportunities only to watch them slip away. Their striving repelled the very good they sought. Yet those who moved with calm confidence, who declared that the way was clear, often found doors opening without strain, as though unseen hands had turned the lock before they arrived. This is no accident. It is the reflection of the inner state upon the outer world, the obedience of appearances to the authority of faith. Force looks for keys outside, rattling every handle, testing every lock, exhausting itself in pursuit. Faith holds the key within, knowing that the word spoken in certainty is the only key required. Once spoken, once believed, the outer condition must yield. The door that once seemed barred becomes effortless to pass through, not because the door changed, but because perception changed. The law obeys the command of faith unfailingly, and so the door responds. To live by force is to live in struggle. To live by faith is to live in flow. The one who forces fears rejection, but the one who has faith cannot be rejected, for they know that what belongs to them will answer their call. The one who forces doubts every step, but the one who has faith walks steadily, sure that the ground will rise to meet them. The one who forces believes in scarcity, but the one who has faith knows that abundance is endless, and that doors are infinite. Every door is a symbol of transition, of movement from one state to another, and transitions are not made by force but by alignment. Faith is alignment with the truth that life is abundant, that supply is constant, that opportunity is always unfolding. Force fights against the flow, trying to seize what is already theirs by right, but faith surrenders to the law and receives with ease. Where force meets resistance, faith meets grace. Where force fails, faith triumphs. The repetition of words with faith is the gentle knocking that needs no strain, for the door was waiting to open. The declaration, "All doors are open to me for money," when spoken 3 times with certainty, is not a plea but a command. It carries the vibration that the law cannot ignore. Circumstances begin to shift, people begin to appear, channels begin to form, and the once closed door is seen to have never been locked. Faith revealed it as open all along. Thus doors respond not to the strength of human hands, but to the authority of divine words spoken in belief. They yield not to struggle but to assurance, not to fear but to certainty, not to force but to faith. The one who knows this walks with calmness, speaks with authority, and finds that every door they approach opens at the right moment, in the right way, with perfect ease.